Hello and welcome to Design Chat, the best live design discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Ryan McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoopajube and at Design Chat. Every week, we bring together some of the coolest people from the design community so you can talk to them on a one-on-one basis. One of the most exciting things going on right now in the design world, I think, just my humble opinion. But it's great to see all of you guys come out here. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Jonnie Hallman. Golf clap, yay! Jonnie, founder of Destroy Twitter and Destroy Today and Destroy Every Day and Destroy Flickr and Destroy Everything. He is the destroyer.
Yeah.
Welcome. It's good to have you here, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here in my home.
So why don't you tell us, let's start off, usually the first thing we do is we do a little get to know you time. You know, if somebody isn't familiar with you, your work, or what you do, or what you're about, we have you just do a sort of, where you're from, what you do, and why you do it.
Okay. I live in Baltimore right now. I'll be living in San Francisco starting in July. I'm for the past year or so, I've been working for Adobe remotely here in Baltimore, and then I'm shipping out there to work in-house. Um, so yeah, that's in a nutshell. But on the like side project sort of stuff, that's where I have most of my projects, like Destroy Twitter, Destroy Flickr. That's all my like nighttime work. Yeah.
Your fun stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, working at Adobe is just like a dream. It's tons of fun, but um, I guess it's my no no rules, no watching what I talk about, stuff like that. I can just be my own boss. Yeah.
I totally want to get into that a little bit, but one of the things I haven't done in a while is ask the audience where everybody's from. So if you have a chance, throw up your Twitter handle, tell us who you are, and tell us what where you're logging on from tonight. Because it's always interesting to see what cities or countries or places people are in. Ireland, look at that. We've got an Ireland. That's awesome. That's so cool. L.A. Eva Crawford, good to see you. Eva's been here quite a few times for these shows.
Cool.
Shempton Alive. He's right across the desk from me right now. North Carolina. See, this is cool. I love seeing this stuff. Cheers, cheers. Cheers, Eva. I hope everybody's got a beverage in hand this evening. It's going to get a little messy. So, quick thank you to Samana Mason. We broadcast from Samana Mason in West Dundee, Illinois. We are at their design offices right now. Check them out on Twitter. They are at Samana Mason, and they're in the chat room. You see the samanamason.com. We've got design chat links that we use for the show. That anytime we get on a subject or start talking about something, we throw that up in the chat room, and that also lives on the Twitter account if you want to reference those links later at Design Chat links. So let's get into a little bit about Adobe. I mean, for a creative type or any designer or man, anyone who is aware of what's going on in technology right now, that's got to be an amazing experience. Tell us a little bit. I mean, I'm sure it's going to change for you having like moving to San Francisco and being around everybody all the time. But I mean, you've been
Hmm.
involved with that company now for a year. How has it changed your life?
Um, I walk down the street and everybody just begs me for CS5. Uh, well, sort of, but it's definitely changed a lot of things. I do get that a lot. The whole like, hey, do you give any discounts or that sort of thing? But no,
Right.
it's nice working for a company that I don't have to say like, okay, this is who I work for, and then actually like spell out the name of the company and that sort of thing. I don't have to go into everything that they do. I can just talk about what I'm working on specifically, rather than trying to generalize everything. So I can just be like, I work for Adobe, but I'm a experienced designer, experienced developer. I work on user experience and Adobe Air applications and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's nice definitely working for the company. And since I'm remote, it hasn't really all sunken in yet because I don't go into their office every day. But
Mm-hmm.
once once I'm there, it's going to be great. I go there for a week or so every few months, and when I do, it's just like, wow, I'm surrounded by all these people I've been following for years,
Right.
and it's just going to be incredible when I'm finally out there and going there every single day.
So, what does being an experienced designer or developer mean? I mean, what is your day-to-day activity like? What kind of projects are you? I mean, you can, obviously, I'm sure you can't tell us details about what you're doing, but give us a general sense of how you get started in the morning and how you sort of work with other people there at Adobe.
Well, since it's a 3-hour time zone difference, it's a huge just obstacle to work with because everyone wakes up or makes it into work around 12 or 1. So that 9 to 12 or 8, actually, I wake up at 8. So it's like 8 until 12. I'm like, uh, if I don't know what to work on, I'm sort of just like trying to find something that needs to be done for our project. But
Mm-hmm.
then most of the time I have a list of things I have to do for the week, so I'm all set and I'm just trucking away. Um, and then when everybody starts rolling in, I can ask any questions that I had and do that sort of thing. But what I like about it is that they're really flexible with time. So I wake up at 8 and I'll go through my RSS reader and just read blogs for an hour or two, gather stuff that I want to blog about myself and that sort of thing. And and then I'm allowed to work. I don't have to work 9 to 5. I could work 11 to 7 if I wanted to, or I could work 11 to 5 if I want to, as long as I get the work done. So they're really good
Mm-hmm.
with that, just like as long as you get the work done, and they're really generous with scheduling meetings. So uh, they won't schedule a meeting for me at like 8 o'clock my time. It'll be like
Right.
5
Yeah.
or 4 around their time. They're conscious of that, so that's very much appreciated.
So cool. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people like myself in this chat right now are extremely jealous of your position and the kind of things that are even possible that can happen to you on a daily basis. And it's got to be one of those thoughts in the back of your head as you're going through. And then, like you said earlier, when you get there, it's gonna sink in. What's going on because it's the company, one of the companies that is on the forefront of technology right now for all sorts of industries. It's not just the creative industry. Lots
Mm-hmm.
of other people use this software. So is that something in the back of your head that that you're sort of helping shape the path of where people are going to be, um, how people are going to be working in the future?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think about sometimes I just stop and think that okay, Adobe, even though I'm in a team of maybe 10, 12 people, it's a 7,000 employee company and they're doing tons of stuff um, completely unrelated to the stuff I'm doing sometimes. So uh, I always think about that and think about how much I can take advantage of. For instance, whenever I'm in San Francisco, I'll try to meet up with different people in the company and just have lunch and see what they're
Right.
working on and see if I can, contribute to anything, such as testing out new software that they have and um, just trying out the new features and all that stuff. The great thing about working for Adobe is that if I ever need to have the latest software. I mean, I've always used Adobe software, so it's very, it's like working with family. And I can just be like, oh, CS5's coming out. Great. I'll just, log in, download it, and test out the new features because I saw like a demo, like for instance, the content aware fill in Photoshop, that like
Yeah.
magic feature where you just lasso something and it just does it for you. I saw that.
Yeah.
I was just like instantly went on, got it, and was just like messing around with it the whole night, and it was just awesome. Um, and
So
yeah,
is
I
it real
just
magic? I mean, does it
CS5.
just do things that you don't think should, be even possible?
I mean, there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, Photoshop is becoming like that tool that Adobe just does everything for you." So it's like taking away the touch-up person or that sort of thing. But it's really not.
Really?
They have these great tools, but it's still like I do a lot of touch-up work in just like my personal photography. And even though it has these tools, there's just like so much more that you can do um, without just like getting rid of a tree. That's just like such a small part to it. But I love having it for little things. Like if I'm making a blog post and an image isn't big enough for the width of my site, I can use like the content aware scaling, and then it'll scale it, but then stretch only the stuff that can be stretched, and then I can get rid of something if the image has like a bad part or something wrong in it. So it's definitely useful on like a small scale as well as a big scale.
Johnny, that scares me. It sounds like voodoo.
Yeah, it's not. It's just a really cool application. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just
if it,
like thrilled. I'm excited for people to use CS5 because it's just such like a. I mean, I'm speaking completely from myself of being like a
right.
Creative Suite user. I'm just like blown away by Photoshop and like Flash Builder and that sort of stuff. And it's awesome to be using it ahead of time, just so I can flatten out anything that they have uh, worrying about. So.
Do you find yourself sort of more interested in exploring other alternative creative programs now that you're so aware of what Adobe's doing? And there are so few people actually making anything anywhere near being competitive. So anytime anyone does rise, and have an interesting new feature like like a Pixelmator or something like that, do you find yourself seeking those programs out and seeing how they work and seeing how they can work for you and changing your perspective on what you do for your work?
Yeah, I actually just stopped programming in Flash and I switched to HTML5. So I'm doing that sort of thing now. No, not at all. No. Not. That was just a joke. Don't freak out, everybody. But um,
I was like,
I don't
wow,
know.
this is gonna take a weird turn.
Yeah, not at all. No. When I have time, I like to check out other things and investigate just because it's not good just to stick with one direct path. It's nice to branch out because it affects your other work. Um,
Uh-huh.
like for instance, I was a graphic design major in college, but on the side I did all this programming. So my programming affected my graphic design, and then vice versa. So it's always good to have this sort of um, side project or side, like if you're learning something that's not the usual everyday language that you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I like
Mm-hmm.
doing that sort of stuff. But specific things, not so much, just because it's hard to break up the day into so many different parts.
So let's get into a little bit of your whole destroy life, your whole side work, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Where did the word destroy come from? Why have you focused on it? What does it mean to you? And how has that sort of pushed out to start all these side projects?
Um, Gosh, I guess it started when I was. I mean, I was like trying to find a name, like a cool name to have for myself that wasn't my own name, because I grew up um, in the design world thinking about people like Robert Hodgin, who has the alias like Flight 404, and then Joshua Davis had the whole like Prey Station and Once Upon a Forest and all these other things. So I wanted to just be cool and have another name. So I like tried really
Don't we
hard to
all?
like think up something. Yeah, so I tried to think up something, and it was just like really. I was coming up, I was in middle school, and I was coming up with the worst names, and they're just like so corny, like looking back. But so one thing I think, I mean, to go through the list of names, I think I started with. So I had my website johnhallman.com, and I was just like, okay, this is just my portfolio, whatever. But then for some reason, I thought like, let's have this website called First in Line. And I was like, okay, that's a cool name. Back in middle school, I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm first in line. Everyone's gonna think of me as first in line. But it's such a bad name. And of course, the domain name isn't available. So I had to go with first-in-line.net. So try to remember something like that, and it's awful.
No, I refuse. Sorry.
And then yeah, yeah, yeah. So I tried to think up something, and for some reason it was like, why don't I have Destroy, which is like a combination of destroy and Detroit, but I have no connection to Detroit. So it was just a made up word, and I didn't even the domain is not available for that either. Um, and then I thought of something. I think it was You Will Destroy Today, and I started going with that for a little bit, but then I just thought it was a little too long, so I cut it down to Destroy Today, and yeah, that's the final thing. And I'm not big into destroying things at all. It's more about like the recreation from the ground up sort of thing, like um, taking an existing application or service and then recreating it from scratch to try to make it from the best possible way. Just forgetting what's
Hmm.
already available and just starting fresh. And that's where Destroy Today is now. I've made a few apps, Destroy Flickr, Destroy Twitter. Um, I'm kind of I really want to make an app that doesn't have Destroy in the name. I made Dwarf, and I'm just like thrilled with Dwarf. Um, but I'm getting really sick and tired of having like people be like, oh, you're like the Destroy, like destroy Flickr, destroy Twitter, destroy Facebook,
But
right?
isn't that
That's going
kind
to
of
be your
what you
next
wanted
app.
in the
Or
first place? Is like people know you for something now, and that's
yes,
cool.
yeah,
So you sort of
that's what I
accomplished your goal
wanted.
there, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I really I wanted that, but I wish I would have kept it at just destroy today, um,
Right.
because part of the reason of having like destroy Flickr and destroy Twitter, it does make sense that I have like that. Okay, I'm going to recreate Flickr, the whole experience from the ground up, but it's like I was. What else am I going to name it? I'm not clever enough to come up with like Tweety or TweetDeck or that sort of thing. And even then, I thought I think it's a really like I don't know. To me, it's really lame just to have like a tweet related name, like a taking the
Yeah.
name like
It
a
was sort of
word
a
tweet or something
bandwagon
like that,
thing.
and just like stretching. Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to keep it simple. And of course, if you name your app Destroy Twitter, um, at first when I released it, everyone was just like, "Why I'm going to install this? It's going to destroy my Twitter account. It's going to delete all my tweets." And it's just like that's it's so. I mean, I understand like the 70-year-old guy or grandma who just had her nephew install the internets on her computer, and seeing the word destroy and just thinking like, oh my god, it's gonna destroy, give me viruses and that sort of thing. But I don't
Yeah.
get those emails anymore. But it was funny at the
Right.
start. But yeah,
It's
I
great
mean,
because it works for
I
you on a
like
number of
destroy Twitter
levels
now.
where
Yeah.
right, it works for you on a number of levels where it's an aggressive
Mhm.
word, so it immediately pulls some emotion out of the people that you're talking to, your audience, and it's inspiring when you realize what it really means. To just, it's aggressive in that it gets people's attention, but it's also aggressive in the way that you're approaching a problem. It's a sort of a motivational idea where it's not, oh, you see something you like and you make a tweak here or there, because that's not going to have any impact. You have to completely destroy how
Mhm.
you think about that idea and rebuild it from the ground up. And I think it's a powerful tool to sort of realize that and take that approach as a design philosophy, if you will. Because if you're just, everybody, you can make the argument that if you're working on a design project and you get to the point in your layout where you're just sort of nudging the text over here and you're sort of, okay, I'll scale it just a little bit, and you
Mhm.
spend an hour making all these stupid little tweaks, and you after an hour you really haven't made much of an impact. Those small moves aren't going to achieve your goal. If you really don't think it's working, you need to wipe it clean, start fresh, and have a fresh
Yeah.
perspective. And I think that, in that case, that name is really working well for you and it applies to things that you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've had numerous occasions where it's just like I'm going on this path of trying to do something, make an app or make a design and that sort of thing. And then it's just like the best advice is just to start fresh, not even thinking about the previous design, because sometimes you get on this road where you're like make one design and then you're like, okay, I'm going to try this design with a different color, and then I'm going to try this design with the same layout but just a different font. And it's you're not going to get any, or I mean, you're going to get somewhere, but very slowly. So yeah, it's best to just try the most out there um, approaches and just see where you get, even if it's going to be the most tacky thing that you create. At least you
Right,
ventured out there.
right. One of the things I want to mention is that if anybody hasn't been here, design chatters in the audience, you can ask questions. You can submit a text question, or you can get on video and actually broadcast video and ask a question one-on-one with Jonnie Hallman. This is a great thing about Chat is that you can be anywhere in the world and you can get face-to-face time with these really interesting people. So take advantage of that while you can, and while you're here, submit a video question and get on and keep the discussion going. I think in that light, I'm going to sort of change the format tonight. We're not going to wait until the end until you get to ask your questions. I really like the idea that we're all part of this community and we can all continue this discussion. So we're going to start taking questions as soon as they're submitted and as soon as they're ready. Hopefully, and that way it sort of moves the conversation along and we can ride that train. So it'll be kind of fun. We've um, M. Thomas asks, do you think Adobe is contributing at all to the lazy photography, aka the spray and pray process?
Um, I I mean, they're adding a lot of features that have many automated sort of functionalities to it, but I think you're going to be able to tell, just like with filters in Photoshop, you can definitely tell if somebody's using something. So it's definitely going to show. Um, but I mean, there's always been a lot of different image applications that say like add this filter and it'll completely create a cartoon version of you in a second. So not saying that that's real photography. Um, but yeah, I think they're adding a lot of features that have sort of an automated sound, but it's really up to the people that use it to use it well. So far, I mean, the content aware fill, which is, you know, made everybody go crazy about this whole like magic Photoshop does everything for you. It doesn't do everything for you. It requires a lot of fine tuning in certain applications. Um, I mean, if you're getting rid of a tree, it'll get rid of a tree. But if you're trying to get rid of a person outside of a photo or that sort of thing, um, it requires a lot of going into it and changing things yourself without the content aware fill um, to really get it to look perfect. So it's not going to do everything for you. Um, it's just going to help a whole bunch. So I mean, I as a photographer welcome it with open arms, just because I don't want to spend time worry like spending like half an hour getting dust out of my photos. That's not what I want to spend
Mm-hmm.
time doing. Um, but it's we'll see where it goes. I want to see what photographers do with it. If somebody turns their photography into just using these automated features, sure, it's gonna suck, but I doubt it's gonna go that road. It's just another feature to use.
And I would imagine a lot of people making this sort of argument, aren't those people who are worried instead of connecting the dots that other people can't connect and coming up with imagery that tells stories in ways that other people can't and exploring new visual styles. All these tools that are coming out, and it's not just by Adobe, it's anyone who develops for any sort of digital platform, whether it's the operating system on a camera or the way that your printer works and applies ink to a paper. All these things are being developed to make our lives easier, right? And so
Mhm.
it's just, in my view anyway, it's just empowering the people who have the great skill of communicating on a visual basis and giving them the tools that are necessary to do their job sometimes faster or cleaner or better and deliver for themselves and their personal projects and also for the clients. It's one of those things like you really can't just sit there and why would you complain about something that makes your life easier? Because there's also the
Yeah.
argument that with all these tools that are readily available for people to create artwork and create visual imagery, it brings the level of the product down because it opens up that sort of world to people who might not have a whole lot of skill, right? And so you see a lot of garbage put out that's repetitive and straight up copies of things that other people do. But I live on the other side of that argument where I think that's it's an acceptable sort of loss because what it also does is it puts the tools in the hands of someone who could be a total visual genius and just wouldn't maybe they don't
Mhm.
want to go to design school or those things aren't for them, but they're able to thrive by using these tools that make our creations so much easier.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's even if you look at like that sort of exact um, example of the new features from Photoshop, think back to like when digital photography just came out and like the traditional photographers versus digital photographers, where they'd be like, oh, like you can take thousands upon thousands of photos and see them right away and delete them right away and that sort of thing. What's the fun in that? That's doing it for you. That's you're not dealing with any film or developing it and that sort of thing. So, I mean, you can really find so many examples of that, but the way that it came along with digital photography now, you still have to be a good photographer to take a good photo. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's that sort of thing.
Next question comes from Samuel Kelly. So we can change directions here and talk about your Destroy Twitter app. Any news on a Destroy Twitter update? The latest screenshots you tweeted looked really good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your Destroy Twitter project, where like how it got started, and sort of where you're going with it.
Sure. I'll answer the question first. Yes, an update is on its way. I've tried to be kind of quiet about it, just like nonchalant with the whole thing. I don't want to just announce it like destroy Twitter 2.0 coming whenever. Um, because last time I did that, the pressure from like people constantly saying like, "Hey, isn't there an update today? Is there an update today?" It was like too much, but there is an update coming. I've been working on it every day, and yeah, I mean you can expect it before Twitter makes the switch to OAuth, which is in June. I'm hoping it's going to be out before then, um, but I'm not going to really set a definite date. I'm just going to keep at it, and it's coming along great. It's really just like so relaxing to be working on it again and the right way. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's to answer the question. But to sort of get into what Destroy Twitter was all about, so I signed up for Twitter like I think it was 2007. So it was pretty early in the whole Twitter game, and it was I somebody told me about it, and I was like, man, that sounds like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Who wants to be like updating their status and telling people what they had for breakfast? Who wants to be doing that? Uh, it's not for me. So um, I didn't. I joined, but I was like, my first tweet was like, "Hey, I'm having Oreos," and it was just like, okay, this is crap. So I'm gonna not do this, not waste my time. Um, and then about a year or so later, I saw like, okay, maybe I'll check it out again. Um, but when I went to use it, I saw the available applications and I couldn't use it. And I noticed that the applications sort of made me not want to use it because it
Mhm.
just didn't feel natural. Of course, the web page, like the web-based usage, is just unusable. Even though they have like, what is it, like 60% of the users use the web for it. It's just like I can't have my browser open all the time to do that. And
Right.
then um, I tried out TweetDeck, and it was just like full screen and way too much. Like you're hearing that ding every minute, and I was just it's going crazy. Um, and then um, and I tried out. I think it was like Twirl. I tried out, which was I felt it was nicer than TweetDeck because it was just much smaller and compact, and it was to the side, but it had an even more annoying ding every time something came up, and it like popped up in front of the screen, so it just like demanded your attention. So
Right.
I spent a week deciding if I really wanted to make a Twitter application because it's a big thing when you make any sort of application, especially if you expect people to use it, because then you have people that use it and expect an update and expect you to keep on developing it. So I, thought about it, weighed my options, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I spent another week researching like crazy, using every single app that was available, and just putting down pros and cons of, what works, what doesn't work, and I started to make a really nice list, and then started development. And in 10 days, I had the first version. It was
Hmm.
like over Christmas break, so I was working, I think it was like 14 hours a day on this, and it was just I really wanted to get something out there, and it started out just like handing it out to friends, um, and they weren't using Twitter, so it gave them a reason to use it. And then um, more and more people started using it, and then it just started exploding, and all of a sudden I had
Right.
like 100,000 users, 200,000 users,
Wow.
300.
How
So
exciting
it
is
just
that?
became crazy, and yeah, it was great. And it was nice because I didn't talk to, like, I didn't try to push it to the press or any of that sort of thing. And I didn't really get that many blog posts about, like, from companies like TechCrunch or Mashable or that stuff. I think the only time I was mentioned on Mashable was the the Twitpocalypse happened when they switched from like integers to numbers, and it completely messed everybody up.
Hmm.
Then I was mentioned as um, like a heavyweight Twitter app, and they've never mentioned me before. So I was just like, oh, great, people are gonna know me. And I was like, oh, destroy Twitter, it doesn't work, so I won't use it. So, but it's not like that for me. For me, it's I made the application because I wanted a way to use Twitter. If other people want to use it, great, and if it makes it easier to use Twitter for them, awesome. Um, but I'm not gonna like go out and try to get funding for it, or you know pay have people pay for it, because it's just my own thing. It's just like something that I want to work on, and I just enjoy working on. It allows me to learn more about Adobe Air, and
Right.
talk to the team, the Adobe team now, about what features that Destroy Twitter could really use in the next version of Air and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's nice to have this project on the side, because if I'm working from 8 until 5 and then I get off work, I want something to look forward to,
Right.
because otherwise I'm not productive at all. If I don't have anything to look forward to after work to work on, it'll just be me sitting in front of the TV, or playing video games and that sort of thing. But at the same time, when I'm done with work, I'm working on Destroy Twitter in front of the TV. So it's like the
Hmm.
same position, but it's just I'm creating stuff.
We're going to take another question real quick from Mr. Live.
Sure.
Wants to know, are you able to talk about the Adobe versus Apple fight? Is Flash and Action Scripted dying a slow death? What are your thoughts on the spat that seems to be going on right now?
In all honesty, I can't say a word about it.
Really?
I mean, I can't say a word about anything about Apple or this sort of stuff. I mean, just short answer: ActionScript and Flash, they're not dying at all. Whoever thinks that is just, I mean, I like being in the Apple Store myself. I've had like employees just say that HTML5 is going to kill Flash, and Flash is already dead. Not true at all if you just use the web. If anybody has an iPhone or iPad and you go on the web, go to your favorite sites, and chances are that one of them won't work, just because it's not the complete web experience. Um, but yeah, it's Flash is not dead. Um, I'm still developing Flash stuff. I know a ton of people that are, and we're not looking to switch to HTML5. People are experimenting with it, but it's not like for example, if you there's this video that's out right now that somebody tested performance of Flash versus HTML5 on the
Uh-huh.
like Google Nexus, the Nexus One, I think, and HTML5 can't keep up at all. So it's like they're saying that it's faster and works better in mobile devices, but it really doesn't. Um, I don't know. And yeah, exactly. People can't use chat room or the this chat room, and they can't use chat roulette and that sort of thing. So there's so many areas where Flash is required that you just what I like to say is go to this website, go to agency.net. Um, wait, no, agencynet.com. I'm going to type it
What is
in.
that?
Go there and recreate that in HTML5, and then we can talk about whether Flash is dying. It's one of the most impressive Flash sites you'll ever see. Um, it's uh, yeah, it's just a great site made with Flash, and I don't see how anybody can do that with HTML5. They just don't have the authoring tools, because with HTML5 you're dependent on code. um,
Hmm.
you need a text editor. So with Flash, you have Flash, the IDE, and then you have Flash Builder, you have Flex Builder, all that stuff. So um, it's really made for both designers and developers. Um, no
And this is
designer
this
is
is a
going to
subject that we've
pick up
touched on a number of
HTML5.
times during the show. Is that
Mhm.
so? HTML5, whatever capabilities it happens to have, or whatever it is, whoever develops, it's a tool, right? So whoever develops the tool that allows people who are not programmers who just want to edit interactive experiences in text, basically, whoever develops that tool is going to be the big winner, right? And sort of expose what the actual benefits are, because there's no way it can grow unless or become popular unless they open it up, or have a way to create things by people who are not necessarily programmers or have a limited knowledge of programming. I think that's one of the reasons why Flash became so wildly popular, because they recognized at a very early stage you need to also cater to people who aren't straight up programmers, because they have ways of publishing really interesting interactive experiences that straight up developers won't be able to do. We're seeing so many multi-talented individuals take on these new creative aspirations, like yourself, who started as a graphic designer, was able to learn and understand programming on the way, and then push yourself in a direction that very few people are able to take. We're going to take another question and keep on moving here.
Okay.
Another Adobe question, of course, from Gary, wants to know, how does Adobe decide what features to add in Photoshop versus other vendor plugins, example, alien skin, etc.?
I have no idea. I work for I work for a part of Adobe called XD, and even more precise, XDCE, which is the Experience Design Customer Engagements. So I have no dealings with Photoshop at all. I just use it, and I enjoy it. So I have no idea. I wish I could answer every Adobe question, but uh, yeah, definitely can't on that one.
Then moving right along, from Florian Stebak asks, hey Johnny, have you gone to college to learn all of this design work? And if so, what courses? So you kind of mentioned this earlier, that you majored in graphic design. What was your college experience like?
Um, so I actually started as a programmer, not as a designer. Um, I started doing GeoCity and Angel Fire websites at like the age of 10 and just started making websites um, for video games that I liked, like Mega Man and Tekken and that sort of thing. Um, and then learned more and more, learned Flash and all that junk. Um, and then I went to it was like on a whim. I got this email that said like, "Hey, take this computer science, um, summer camp sort of thing." And I was like, "Oh, like this looks like it's something I can do during the summer because in middle school or high school during the summer, it's like 3 months of just absolutely nothing, and then you start to, I mean, me personally, I start to itch just because I need something to do every day. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought of doing this summer camp, but then a friend of mine suggested um, RISD. They have a summer pre-college thing. So I did that. Like it was a week before the deadline to sign up. So I just like quickly signed up. I went there, and it was the best 6 weeks of my life. Completely changed me, and it made my portfolio to get into college. Like I probably wouldn't have gone to the design school that I went to if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't go to RISD and get the design chops that I needed. Um, and that's where I sort of really got into graphic design, and I gave the like programming side a little bit of a break. Um,
Uh,
but then I took an internship where I got back into the programming um, because they're just like the part of the interview was like they're like, "Do you know Flash?" And I was like, "I used to." And they're like, "Can you learn it or relearn it in a week and have this website done in 2 weeks?" So I had to do all that and get back into it. And ever since, I've been strong with the programming side. Um, but the courses that I took, so I went to school for graphic design, and um, I mean, it just had like the standard courses like graphic design 1, graphic design 2, type 1, type 2. Um,
mm-hmm.
I think they had some like side classes of like photo imaging and digital photo. Um, I don't know. They're just the titles don't tell you anything, so it's just like advanced graphic design 1, advanced graphic design 2. Um, I think for everybody taking a type class is it'll make you such a better designer. Taking any sort of like basic graphic design class that teaches you the foundation that um, you start out just learning little things that go a long way that you don't even think. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, regular designers, you learn it from the beginning, but you don't think about it when you're actually designing. You're just like, oh, that's obvious, sort of thing. But when you're starting out fresh, you have no idea that party is not a good font and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's just like
Well,
little
really, it's like
things.
any other sort of
Taking
profession
basic,
where you sort of you need to learn the history of what it is that you're doing,
yeah.
why you're doing your job the way it's been done, why the type tools are named what they are, what kerning is, what leading is, why it was named those things, and how the original typesetters were actually they had blocks of lead that they would have to set in between. It was leading that would make the space in between the lines, and all this sort of all these different parts of the
Mhm.
education will make you better at what you do and understanding how to approach the problems, and you're going to be able to work on a much higher sort of professional plane than if you just take maybe two courses at a junior level sort of deal. And I'm not trying to put those down because those courses are probably responsible for bringing people up to a next level and giving them an interest in design. And I'm sure they create a lot of jobs and it's good for the economy and all that. People who can jump in and start doing production at an early, sort of stage and then move on from that point if they're so inclined. But you're right. You do have to learn these tools to sort of use them to become a professional. And some people make the argument that you just shouldn't give these tools. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. You shouldn't give these tools to people who aren't educated because it just brings down the craft. And people think, oh,
Mhm.
I've got Photoshop, so I'm a graphic designer and I can take a job. But it's in that case, it's sort of buyer beware. If you're trying to buy somebody's time to do a website and their talent, you better be concerned with who they are, what their background is, and how they're going to approach your problem and what sort of value you're going to get out of it. And people say, oh, there should be a certificate to be a designer. Like in order to be a doctor, you have to have a certificate on the wall that says you're allowed to be a doctor. Maybe there should be a certificate
Yeah.
that says you're allowed to be a designer. Look, I got this degree. I'm allowed to design for you today, and I'm going to do a good job. And that's what that says. It's the promise of a good job. But I don't know if that, then you start bringing law into it, and who wants that? That's just not going to be fun at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. I there's, a few arguments there where it's just like, sure, it'd be nice to have like the title art director, guarantee that you're a designer or that sort of thing. But I can find you dozens of people that just put art director by their name, and they should not be allowed near design and that sort of thing. So it goes both ways. Um, but one piece of advice that I can give to people that like is crystal clear for me and got me to where I am is that I strived in like the basic graphic design classes where I was just like, this stuff, I'm learning so much. I'm making, so much sense of everyday design. Um, and then I took an internship, which turned into a job. And I learned so much from working in the field alongside somebody that is mastered at it and other people that know like design incredibly well, that they're not teaching to, a class of 30. They're working
Hmm.
and then, pushing you to work as well. So I think I learned, I mean, as much as it sucks that I spent, what, like $120,000 on a college education, I learned so much from an internship and a job that actually paid me to be there. So
Hmm.
I think if you go through college, like a design school, and you don't take an internship and you don't sort of, I mean, if you are able to have a job, that's great. But take as many internships as you can take and just try to be around people that are in the field and doing well because it just blends into what you're doing and it just
Hmm.
shapes you without you even knowing it. Just being there, you learn so much.
There's a set of questions I've been asking recently on these shows that I like to keep on going because I think it's interesting to hear all the different answers that come out of these. The first one is about the idea of filter and curation, where it's a big buzzword right now and it's sort of starting to get overused. But it's really important, and I think great question for you because you're really part of this world. There's so much information and data and advertising and junk that's thrown at us in our visual world every day that people are finding ways to keep out the bad and bring in the good, to curate their lives, to bring in the things that they're interested in
Mhm.
so they can concentrate on those and get all the junk out of their lives. So what are some of the filters that you use? And they can be digital, they can be a way of thinking that you use to curate your life.
Gosh, that's a good question. Well, I use AdBlock Plus in Firefox, which
What is
is
that?
just perfect. Oh man, it blocks any and all ads on the web. I mean, it sucks that it kills ad revenue for sites that are living off of their ads. So I feel bad for that. But going on the web, like going on YouTube and not seeing a single ad, is just, it's such, it feels so mellow just to be able to do that. Whereas I would use another app that doesn't have it, and I'd just go, like, I started going crazy, just seeing moving parts everywhere. Um, but yeah, that's just for the browser and that sort of thing. Um, as for filtering other things, I think um, in like the real world, off the computer, just try to surround yourself with things that you are attracted to and drawn to, um, because then you're always seeing things that you want to see, and um, just if you're not, if like for instance, if you're living in an area that doesn't really inspire you, um, get up and move to a city or a town that really, like, if you love nature, move to where there's nature. Don't live in a city where there's not a sight of grass anywhere. If you really love the city, move to a city, and that sort of thing. So I think that's my advice for just the real world, just to try to
Hmm.
surround yourself with that stuff. Because if you're working somewhere where you don't, where things don't inspire you around you, and you're not surrounded by things that inspire you, you're gonna not make the kind of work that you'd be happy with. I mean, you can, but if you're working at a place that really just gets you flowing, and like for instance, when I'm working at Adobe in the studio, and there's like flash gods around me, and I can just talk to them and ask them what they're working on, and they're working on stuff that is way over my head that I can't
Yeah.
even begin to like understand. But then I take the time, and they take the time to explain it to me. All of a sudden, I'm taking what they know, and you know, it's it's amazing just to be around things that are more advanced than you. Um, it's just like you don't you don't play basketball against somebody that you can beat every single time. You try to, play against somebody who's much better than you, because then you can, learn how to play better. That's the lame sports analogy for the night that I came up with.
But it's great advice though, because it's a really exciting time where people are sharing ideas and you're realizing that everyone's open to that idea. And it's one of the foundations that we're building Design Chat on is, we want to break down corporate and competitive barriers so that creatives can come together and share these ideas. And the more we do it, the more we find out that these really high level functioning people like yourself are excited to come and share and have these discussions. And that's a very exciting thing because it brings everybody's game up, It makes you ask more
Mhm.
questions. It makes you stay curious. That's a great philosophy to stay curious every day and stay hungry, for something. And because there are sources out there, there are people who are willing to share their knowledge and, sort of help other people out. I think it's a great sentiment.
Mhm.
The next question that I like to ask is about web browsing. What is your guilty pleasure website? Is there a place that you visit every day that you kind of think that maybe you shouldn't do it?
Well, one thing that I mean, it's an essential part of my day. If I don't have this part, my day is not going to be as fun. Um, it's kind of embarrassing. In my RSS reader, I have like design blog, coding blog, news, all this like gadget stuff, and then I have like people of Walmart, and I have Photobomb, and I have all those sites that it's just like awful stuff, like fail blog, and
Yeah,
I love it.
right.
And I just need like half of the people that I follow, they just post these links all day, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I have to click on them, even though I'm running against a deadline. I'm just like, oh my
Uh-huh.
god, that cat it's like whack a kitty. I saw like this animated GIF today, blew my mind, and that's what I need every day. It's just a
It's
nice
the junk food of the
speed
internet.
bump, and yeah, definitely. But it can only make you healthier. So it's awesome junk food. And yeah,
It's
I
junk
I
food that
just I
doesn't make
love
you
that.
fat.
Yeah. So that sort of stuff, I think the internet needs that to keep people sane, because you get to see people that are insane, and it's just like, wow, people like this exist, and that's awesome. Yeah.
Well,
So
if
that's
you
my embarrassment. I
remember,
mean, it's not.
go back and find that funny cat GIF and post it to your Twitter account so with the hashtag Design Chat so everybody can see it.
Oh yeah. Let me just. I'll grab that right now. Like
Sure,
everyone has to
go
see
ahead
that.
and grab that, and
I,
I'll.
I s- Yeah, I actually sent it to my Adobe team,
Uh huh.
but then I got, um, one of the senior designers wrote back, "Hey, I would look at this, but I got a call from 2006, because apparently it's an old animated GIF, um, but I saw it for the first time, and it's I just can't get enough of it. So
That's awesome. Yeah, look it up real quick,
check that
and
out.
I'll start talking about the next question here. It's,
Yeah, yeah. I wrote
what
it
is on your
in the
current.
chat there, so.
Okay, good. So then I'll move on. What is on your current visual radar? What in your life is catching your eye about an interesting interaction. And again, this can be digital or it can be analog. I always say, it could be a cool manhole cover on the street that you walk by every day that has a weird pattern on it. So what in your life right now is catching your eye and is really interesting to you?
Gosh, I don't know. Like, there's, I think, um, well, I got. I mean, I don't want to be one of those lame like Apple fanboys. I'm not one at all. But I got an iPad recently to write um, apps for, um, and I like looking through and just finding applications that are just so seamless and just make so much sense for the device, and that just
Hmm.
make everybody's life so much better. Um, and like even on like a mobile device like the iPhone, it's just um, if there's one application, like for instance on the iPad, there's the Netflix app, which is just like
Hmm.
I love Netflix Watch Instantly. It's part of my every night routine, and if I can watch it away from the TV, like in bed or something, or just like lying down, it's just like I love having that. But at the same time, I kind of don't like having all these devices. So it's like you know, I I like having devices for really useful things like, oh, I want to use it for GPS to get from here to there. But then it's like I feel like a douche whenever I'm checking my iPhone, um, just because it's like if I got an
Right.
email, I'm like, ah, I'm that guy that checks his email on his phone. That sucks. So, um, yeah, I mean, I love it for checking email away from the computer or um, you know, playing Noby Noby Boy or whatever. But yeah,
What's
I don't know.
Noby Noby
They're
Boy?
very useful. It's this it's this. It started as a PlayStation 3 game. My girlfriend's really addicted to it. Um, it's made by the same developer that made Katamari. So it's like if you're familiar with that game where you're like rolling a ball of junk that collects other junk. Um,
Yes, yes, yes,
Noby Noby
yes.
Boy is like yeah. So Noby Noby Boy is like you're this creature that has four legs that just crawls around and eats things. And the more it eats, the longer it gets. And then at some point, you can just like poop out everything, and that's the game. There's nothing past that. There's no
What?
levels. There's no like it's not you have nothing to go to. It's not like a baseball game where you try to beat the other team, and it's not like God of War where you're trying to get to the end and beat all these characters.
Yeah.
You're just yeah, it's the poopy poopy snake game. You're just trying to eat things. It's
And it's
it's
called what again?
it's here. I'll type it in. So it's Noby Noby Boy. They have it for PlayStation 3. They have it for the iPhone and the
Noby
iPad
Noby
now.
Boy.
It's it'll blow your mind if you're just
It,
used
it's
to
crazy because it sounds
logical
so much
things.
like Centipede. It sounds like something so similar to that was being played in the early 80s, right? But you add one more dimension to it
Yeah,
that the centipede gets to poop. And all of a sudden, you've got
yeah.
hours of
I
more
think
fun.
Yeah, I think to like relate it to an older game, I think it's exactly like Snake. If you've ever played Snake on your TI-83, or if on your old Nextel phone or whatever, where you're just trying to go around and eat things but not touch yourself. But Noby Noby Boy, even if you run into yourself, it's still okay. So you can only go ahead in that game. You can't die or anything. You're just eating things. I can't believe
Brilliant.
this chat
Absolutely
has
brilliant.
brought up this. Yeah,
That's why we do it, man, because
yeah,
those subjects come up and everybody's going to dig here in about the poopy poopy game. So moving
yeah.
on that
It's
note,
great.
let's take a question from MO. What is your favorite HTML editor and why? A notebook, right? Grin.
Um, I actually for a while I went on vacation once, and um, I didn't have my laptop, so I was writing code in a notebook. Um, but I think, I mean, my favorite HTML editor is TextMate. It's very lightweight and it's just so easy to use. I used to use Eclipse, but after a while it just felt so heavy. Um, and Yeah, I rarely do any HTML stuff. It's just when I'm editing something on my blog, if I need to update the style sheet or that sort of thing. It's very rare that I do HTML work now.
Right.
My last job I used to do it all the time, but now I'm mostly just in Flash Builder doing Adobe Air, that sort of thing.
Just want to mention real quick, this is your last chance to submit a video question. I'm really disappointed, Design Chatters. Nobody submitted a video question tonight. This now's your time to do this sort of thing because you never, until Johnny comes back on Design Chat. When are you going to bump into this guy, right? And if you bump into him at a conference, then it's this weird, awkward. Oh, I'm going to scoot up to you and say, "Oh, you're awesome," and I don't know what it's. It's not cool. At least here you can keep on going with the conversation. So last chance, do a video question. We're going to wrap up in a couple seconds here. Um, uh, Mitch Smith wants to know, last text question of the night. What are your thoughts on Paper Vision 3D and other technologies that allow 3D objects in Flash?
I got to use Paper Vision for um, maybe half an hour, part of some application that sort of needed something with 3D but didn't really. And I loved it when I did use it. Past that, I've never really used it much, and I don't really do any 3D work. It's just really um, a different world. If people find that familiar, it's just like doing anything in 3D is just so much extra that you have to think about with thinking about depth and depth of field and that sort of thing. But any other technology that you can, that will allow people to make cool things, I'm all for it. Um, yeah.
Great answer. Um, so a couple announcements real quick. Design Chat. We do this every Wednesday. Please join us every Wednesday night. We have a Facebook group. Please join us on Facebook. On Twitter, we're at Design Chat. I'm Ryan McGovern. I'm at Hoopajube. If anybody sneaks in a video question, we'll still pick it up tonight. But otherwise, we're going to start wrapping it up. Thank you to Samata Mason for allowing us to broadcast from their offices in West Dundee, Illinois. Very cool design agency, SamataMason.com. Not seeing a video questions. Very disappointed, but I'll get over it. Johnny, bravo. Thank you very much for coming out. You were awesome. A great conversation, and very exciting to talk to you and to see what you're doing in the future. So your website is?
DestroyToday.com. So.
And follow at Destroy Today on Twitter. And very excited to see what you do in the future, man. You got a lot of good things going for you. And, congratulations on getting involved with Adobe and moving to San Francisco soon. I hope that goes smoothly for you.
Yeah, me too. And anytime you want me to come back, I'm all for it. I had a great time.
Awesome. All right, cool. So that's it for Design Chat tonight. We'll see you guys next week. Tune in to designchat.info, and we will talk to you in the future. All right? Good night.